Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to do the current affairs from May 9th to May 15th. So let's get started, students. So number one, Adani Wilmar has become India's largest FMCG company, surpassing HUL. HUL is Hindustan Unilever Limited, and Adani Wilmar is the Adani group that we all know of. And Adani has dislodged HUL as the biggest or the largest FMCG fast moving consumer goods company in India. And AWL has reported total operating revenue of rupees 54,204 crores in the financial year 2022, whereas HUL reported a revenue of 51,468 crores. So it was after the announcement of the fourth quarter results that Adani has gone on to become the largest FMCG company. And in fact, this year, Gautam Adani, also the head of the Adani group, he also replaced Warren Buffett to become the fifth wealthiest person in the world. And some important facts about the Adani group. Adani group was founded in 1988, headquartered in Ahmedabad, Gujarat, and Chairman Gautam Adani and Managing Director Rajesh Adani. Next, students, Utkarsh Mahotsav has been organized by Central Sanskrit University. So the Central Sanskrit University students, it is organizing this Utkarsh Mahotsav in New Delhi. And the objective behind organizing the Utkarsh Mahotsav is to promote the Sanskrit language across the country and beyond. The centralization of 3 Sanskrit universities reflects PM Modi's strong commitment to preserve and promote Sanskrit language across the nation and at the global level, particularly students. So basically, there are 3 deemed to be Sanskrit universities in the country, and a Sanskrit Universities Act has been, passed in Parliament, wherein, there's this proposal to centralize the 3 Sanskrit university students, so giving them the central university status basically. And the objective behind this is students to promote Sanskrit and our, Shastras, our Shastraik education at the global level. So this event is being jointly organized by the Central Sanskrit University, New Delhi, Sri Lal Bahadur National Sanskrit University, New Delhi, and National Sanskrit University, Tirupati. So these are basically the 3 deemed to be universities which would be centralized. Now, the focus of the Mahotsav is the new educational era, moving towards a global orientation of Sanskrit studies. And the theme of the Mahotsav is global orientation of Sanskrit in the new educational era. And Vice Chancellor of 17 Sanskrit University scholars and a large number of students participated in the event. Moving on, students, new electoral map released for Jammu and Kashmir. So we all know, students, that very recently Jammu and Kashmir got the union territory status. So now, for the purpose of election, students, the electoral constituencies have to be defined, right? They have to be carved out. So a 3-member delimitation commission redrawing the electoral map of Jammu and Kashmir allotted 47 assembly seats for Kashmir division and 43 for Jammu in its final decision submitted barely a day before its 2-year term was to end. And after the panel led by retired Supreme Court Judge Ranjana Prakash approved the final verdict, giving Jammu 6 additional seats and Kashmir 1 more, a gazette notification was released, students. So the overall number of assembly seats in the Union Territory has been increased to 90 students. Next, students, Reliance has become first Indian company to cross USD 100 billion annual revenue. So Reliance Industries, students, it has become the first Indian company to record annual revenue of more than a whopping $100 billion, students. It has recorded a 22.5% rise in net profits for the quarter ended March 22. And now the earnings rose primarily because of rise in broadband subscribers. That means the earnings came from the Reliance Jio Telecom, from the retail business, online retail gaining traction, and new energy investment picking routes. So basically, we know the 3 flagship industries of Reliance Group. We have the Jio, the telecom business, the retail business, and of course, the energy business. Some quick key facts about Reliance Industries. Their students, Mukesh Ambani, he's the CEO, founder Dhirubhai Ambani. It was founded in 1973 and headquartered in Mumbai. Moving on, students, Lokpal to have permanent office at World Trade Center building in Delhi. So the Lokpal of India will finally move into this swanky office at World Trade Center 4 years after being appointed as country's first anti-corruption ombudsman to investigate complaints against public functionaries, including the Prime Minister, and almost a decade after the act was passed by the Parliament students. So it has been a decade, in fact, that the Lokpal Act was passed by the Parliament, and 4 years after the first Lokpal was appointed, now Lokpal of India is moving into this permanent office at World Trade Center. So it did have an office, but wasn't permanent in nature. So now it has found its permanent office at World Trade Center. And on March 19, 2019, Justice Pinaki Chandra Ghosh, along with 8 other members, was appointed as India's first Lokpal. And the appointment came 5 years after the Lokpal and Lok Ayukt Act was, it came into existence in 2013. It was passed in 2013, basically, to investigate the charges of corruption against certain types of public workers. And so basically, students, anyone who is or has been the Prime Minister, this is very important. You all should know that what powers does the Lokpal have. So basically, anyone who is or has been the Prime Minister, a ministry in the Union government, or member of the Parliament, as well as officers of the Union government in groups A, B, C, and D, can be investigated by the Lokpal students. The body also handles complaints against the chairperson, members, and officers, directors of any board, corporation, society, trust, autonomous body established by the Act of Parliament. So these are the powers of Lokpal students. Next, students, Mindtree and LT, Larsen & Toubro Infotech, announced merger to create India's 5th largest IT services. So India's 5th largest IT services, students. So L&T Infotech and Mindtree, these are 2 independently listed IT services companies under Larsen & Toubro Group. And they have announced a merger that would create India's 5th largest IT service provider. And the combined entity will be known as LTI Mindtree, students. So we have other IT services provider like Infosys and Wipro and Tata, TCS. We have the Cognizant Group. So there's so many others. And this is going to be the 5th largest IT services group in the country, students. And it says that the proposed integration will see Mindtree and LTI join strength to create an efficient and scaled up IT services provider exceeding USD 3.5 billion, students. So basically, the same benefits that usually most mergers bring, it's like a capacity enhancement. So it is going to give them these benefits. And these opportunities will create a more distinctive employee value proposition and stronger partnership with ecosystem players. So if you talk about L&T students, it was founded in 23rd December 1996, headquartered in Mumbai, and the head is Sanjay Jalona. Next, students, very unfortunate, Padma Vibhushan Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma passes away. So Indian music composer and santoor player Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma passed away at the age of 84. And he had been suffering from kidney-related issues for the last 6 months and was on dialysis. However, he passed away recently due to cardiac arrest, students. He gave the santoor, once a little-known instrument from Jammu and Kashmir, a classical status and exalted it along with other more traditional and famous instruments such as sitar and sarod. And he received the prestigious Padma Shri in 1991 and Padma Vibhushan in 2001, students. If you quickly look at the career of Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma. So Shiv Kumar Sharma was born in Jammu and Kashmir in 1938, and he started learning santoor at the tender age of 13. His first public performance was in Mumbai in 1955. Also, he has composed the background music for one of the scenes from the movie Chanak Chanak Pail Baje, and 4 years later, he also recorded his first solo album. And with Hari Prasad Chaurasia. Pandit Shiv Kumar Sharma composed music for several Hindi films, including Silsila, Chandni, as well as Dar. So quite an illustrious career there. Now moving on, students, this is very important. According to the National Statistical Office, NSO, data, it has revealed that unemployment rate of India at 8.7% in October, December 2021. So students, these are like important, this is an important statistic, an important fact. We should rather note it down somewhere, that the current unemployment rate in India stands at 8.7%. And this is according to the NSO office, NSO data. So if we talk about joblessness or unemployment rate, what is it, students? It is defined as the percentage of unemployed persons in the labor force, right? So what is labor force? Labor force refers to the part of the population which supplies or offers to supply labor for pursuing economic activities for the production of goods and services. Now, unemployment rate is defined as the percentage of unemployment persons in the labor force. That means how many people who can actually supply labor, out of them, how many people are jobless or unemployed. So that gives you the unemployment rate percentage. Now, among males, it says that the unemployment rate in urban areas dipped to 8.3% in October, December 2021, compared to 9.5% a year ago. It also showed that joblessness among females aged 15 years and above in urban areas also declined to 10.5% from 13.5%. So now, students, if you see, the unemployment rate in females understandably is higher, and but the unemployment rate has come down for both males and females in the urban area. So that's a welcome news, students. We all know that if the government wants to reap the demographic dividend, it is very important that the government creates employment. In fact, that's the most important priority areas for the government. Next, students, Deepika Padukone has been named as the first Indian brand ambassador of Louis Vuitton. So actress Deepika Padukone has become the first ever Indian brand ambassador of luxury brand Louis Vuitton. And the news was announced by the French brand. And it saw Padukone joining in actors Emma Stone and Zhu Dongyu for promotional shots, students. So basically, she's the first Indian to go on to become the ambassador of the luxury brand Louis Vuitton. And recently, students, Deepika Padukone was also named as a part of the 8-member jury presided by French actor Vincent Lindon at the 75th Cannes Film Festival. She's also received the first time 100 Impact Awards for creating awareness about mental health, and she became the first Indian actor to feature in the brand's campaign in 2020. Next, students, the most like sought after, anticipated, and the largest ever IPO, LIC IPO, students, on the closing day, the total subscription was at 2.95 times, students. So basically, it was subscribed three times over. So on the final day of bidding, the insurance behemoth, Life Insurance Corporation of India, IPO, the country's largest ever, witnessed 2.95 times greater demand than the share on sale, generating bids totaling rupees 43,932 crore. So students, we all know that LIC is the largest IPO that has happened in India. Before this, the Paytm IPO was the largest ever, but now LIC has gone on to become the largest IPO in India. And the government has disinvested, or the government has diluted its stake of 5%, students, in LIC. So earlier it was 5%, and then later the government announced that it's going to reduce its stake only to 3.5%. So basically what I meant was that the government initially decided to dilute its stake to 5%, but a stake of 5%. But later, given the choppy market conditions, the government decided to dilute only or disinvest only 3.5% of its stake in LIC. And domestic investors, mostly retail, were the primary drivers of the subscription, and the IPO received 7.33 million retail investor applications, breaking the previous record of 4.8 million set by Reliance Power in 2008, students. And foreign portfolio investor students, FPIs. That means the people of foreign origin or the companies of foreign origin that invest in the Indian stock markets. So they had a lukewarm response to the LIC IPO owing to the global risk aversion. So we all know at this point, students, there's a global risk aversion to any investment given the, the very slow economic recovery, and then this whole Russia-Ukraine conflict, and then, the world trade is also relatively slow. So because of all these factors, there's a high global risk aversion. Because of this, there was a lukewarm response of foreign portfolio investors to this IPO. Next, students, very quickly about LIC. LIC is an Indian statutory insurance and investment company with its headquarters in Mumbai. It is under the control of the Indian government, and the Life Insurance Corporation of India was founded on September 1, 1956, when the Indian Parliament passed the Life Insurance of India Act, which nationalized the Indian insurance business, students. And the state-owned LIC of India was formed through merger of over 245 insurance companies and provident societies. So very important fact about LIC there, that students, it was formed as a result of nationalization of 245 insurance companies and provident societies. So they all were clubbed under LIC, students, as a national insurance company. So next, students, Vice President Venkaiah Naidu releases Modi at 20 Dreams Meeting Delivery book. So this book, students, it presents different facets of Narendra Modi, his thought process, his proactive approach, his transformational leadership styles. And it is basically an anthology edited and compiled by Blue Craft Digital Foundation. Students, please remember the name. And it is published by Rupa Publications, and it is a compilation of chapters authored by eminent intellectuals and domain experts. So basically, students, it's not a book by a particular author. It is a compilation of contributions or chapters of a number of eminent people and intellectuals and domain experts. Now, if we talk about the essence of the book encompasses the experiential journey of Modi since he left his house at the tender age of 17 and set out on a mission of knowing himself and his country, students. And in 2021, Modi completed 20 continuous years as the head of the government. So basically, this includes his tenure as a chief minister in Gujarat, and then past so many years as the prime minister. So he's clocked 20 years as the head of the government, basically. So this book brings together his entire journey. And this book is a compilation of chapters authored by eminent intellectuals and domain expert students. Next, students, Sri Lanka's prime minister resigned after weeks of protests. So we all know that Sri Lanka is going through a crisis, students. So its prime minister resigned recently, and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned from his position on 9th May 2022. He sent his resignation letter to the president of Sri Lanka, Gotabaya Rajapaksa. So you should know the name of the prime minister and president. And he has been accused of misleading Sri Lanka's economy and pushing Sri Lanka towards bank corruption and economic crisis. People have been protesting against the president and the prime minister for many months now, and they were demanding his resignation. So finally, the prime minister of Sri Lanka, Mahinda Rajapaksa, had to resign. Students, Rajiv Kumar has been appointed as the next chief election commissioner. So election commissioner Rajiv Kumar has been appointed as the next chief election commissioner. So basically, Rajiv Kumar is a current election commissioner, and he has been appointed as the next chief election commissioner. And he took charge as election commissioner in 2020. So since 2020, he's been an EC. And he will assume charge on May 15 after the incumbent Sushil Chandra demits office on May 15. So the current chief election commissioner, Sushil Chandra, he would leave the office on May 14th, and Rajiv Kumar would assume charge on May 15th, students. Students, retail inflation surges to 7.79% in April, and this is highest in 8 years, students. So we all know that India has been facing high levels of inflation from past 1.5 years, and this is primarily because of First, it was, of course, the supply chain constrained students, the supply chain bottlenecks that were there because of the pandemic. And now, of course, because of the, the Russia-Ukraine crisis, the Russia-Ukraine conflict, we've seen a surge in fuel prices and the commodity prices that has had a spillover effect on the general inflation students. So the retail inflation, it surged to 7.79%, which is the highest in past 8 years, students. And the consumer price-based inflation, it stayed well above the RBI's upper tolerance limit for the 4th consecutive month, students. So basically, RBI has set an upper limit, or it has set a band of tolerance level of inflation, students. So the higher, the upper limit is basically 6%, but this has breached that to go up to 7.79%. And the previous high was recorded at 8.3% in May 2014. Now, why did this happen, students? So basically, the rate of price rise in fuel and light category in the retail inflation basket quickened to 10.8%, students. So basically, it was primarily because of the rise in the fuel prices. Then even in the rise of the edible oils and fats category, this also saw elevated level of inflation to the tune of 17.28%, students. That is like very high inflation. And besides this, students, Ukraine is also a key supplier of fertilizer to India. So disturbance in that region, led to an increase in the price of both the edible oil and the fertilizers. And vegetable witnessed an inflation print of 15.41%. So it's like it's something that's been observed across the category, students, vegetables and oil and fat and fuel and light. So RBI has been mandated by the center to keep the retail inflation between 2% to 6%. So this is the tolerance level that the RBI has set for itself, that the government has set for the RBI. But we can clearly see that the inflation has breached the upper limit to go up to 7.79%. So that's all for this video, students. I would see you very soon with yet another video. Thank you so much.